Hello everybody, welcome to our YouTube channel My Gurukul, myself Shruti V. Pandey, and today we are going to learn the National Curriculum Framework 2005. In short, NCF 2005 sets the teaching learning standards to be followed in the country. This is highly appreciative in all its aspects. In previous years, through not many questions have been asked, but still there is all the chances that question will come in the exam. So basically, what is National Curriculum Framework 2005? What and in this topic, our objectives to learn is what and how to teach children. Next, we will understand implication for curriculum and practice and teaching for construction of knowledge. Then we will learn the value of interactions. Next, National Curriculum Framework, its perspective, learning and knowledge, curriculum areas, school stages and assessment. Next, we will learn school and classroom environment, then systematic reform, approaches to planning, then organizing experiences, and at last we will learn discipline and participatory management and aims of education. So we will discuss all those topics, all those objectives that I have told now in this topic. And in this video, we will clear all the concepts regarding to the National Curriculum Framework. So what and how to teach the children? So let us start from the first objective of today. What and how to teach the children? The NCF 2005 begins with a quotation from Tagore's essay Civilization and Progress, in which the poet reminds us that a creative spirit and generous joy are keys in childhood, both of which can be distorted by an unthinking adult world. Seeking guidance from the constitutional vision of India as a secular, egalitarian, and pluralistic society, founded on the values of social justice and equality. Certain broad aims of education have been identified in this document NCF 2005. These include independence of thought and action, sensitivity to others, well-being and feelings, learning to respond to new situations in a flexible and creative manner, predisposition towards participation in democratic process, and the ability to work toward the contribute to economic process and social change. For teaching to serve as a means of strengthening our democratic way of life, it must respond to the presence of first generation schoolgoers whose retention is imperative owing to the constitutional amendment that has made elementary education a fundamental right of every child. The fact that learning has become a source of burden and stress on children and their parents is an evidence of a deep distortion in educational aims and quality. To correct this distortion, the present NCF proposes 5 guiding principles for curriculum development. Initial construction mental representation may be based on the idea of the road transport system, and a child from a remote rural setting may form the idea centered around the bullock cart. Learner construct mental representations image of external reality transport system through a given set of activities. NCF aims of education based on Constitution vision of India, independence of thought and action, learning to respond to new situations, flexibility and creatively, predisposition for participation in democratic process and social change, empower all children to learn. Distortion of aims of education. Learning has become a source of burden and stress for children. Textbooks, workbook, information overload, incomprehension, tests and examination. So NCF learning and knowledge. A child as a learner, what should be learnt? NCF perspective and then common health views. So according to NCF perspectives, all children are motivated and capable of learning, but commonly held views not true a large number of children. According to NCF perspective, children learn in a variety of ways. But in commonly held views, children learn in limited ways. According to NCF, developing capacity for abstract thinking, reflection, and the work are most important aspects of learning. But here, developing generally only skills necessary for helping students pass or excel in examination. According to NCF, child as a critical learner and constructor of knowledge. Child as passive imbibers of textbook information and providing set answers to all questions. According to NCF, different types of knowledge as embodied in the traditional curriculum as well as in the world outside the school. Commonly held views, knowledge as embodied in textbooks. So children's knowledge and local knowledge. Local knowledge is a rich source of learning for all children. Implication of curriculum and practice. Teaching for construction of knowledge. So initial construction mental representation may be based on idea of the road transport system, and child from a remote rural setting may form the idea centered around the bullock cart. Learners construct mental representations image of external reality transport system through a given set of activities or experiences. Next is the value of interactions. The structure and restructuring the ideas are essential features as the learners progress in learning. For instance, the initial idea of a transport system built around road transport will be reconstructed to accommodate other types of transport systems, sea and air, using appropriate activities. Designing learning experiences. The engagement of learner through relevant activities can further facilitate in the construction of mental images of the relationship cause effect between a transport system and human life or economy. Approaches to planning. However, there is a social aspect in construction process in the sense that knowledge needed for a complex task can decide in a group situation. In this context, collaborative learning provides room of negotiation of meaning, sharing of multiple views, and changing the internal representations of external reality. Critical pedagogy. Construction indicates that each learner individually and social constructs meaning as he or she learns. Constructing meaning is learning. The constructivist perspective provides strategy for promoting learning by all. The teacher on role in children's cognition could be enhanced if they assume a more active role in relation to the process of knowledge construction in which children are engaged. A child constructs her or his knowledge while engaged in the process of learning, allowing children to ask questions that require them to relate what they are learning in school to things happening outside, encouraging children to answer in their own words and from their own experiences rather than simply memorizing and getting answers right in just one way. All these are small but important steps in helping children develop their understanding. Next is intelligent guessing must be encouraged as a valid pedagogic way to quite often children have an idea arising from their everyday experiences or because of their exposure to the media, but they are not quite ready to articulate it in way that a teacher might appreciate. It is in the zone between what you know and what you almost know that new knowledge is constructed. Such knowledge often takes the form of skill which are cultivated outside the school, at home or in the community. Last is all such forms of knowledge and skills must be respected. A sensitive and informed teacher is aware of this and is able to engage children through well chosen tasks and questions so that they are able to realize their developmental potential. The value of interactions. Learning takes place through interactions with the environment around nature, things, and people, both through actions and through language. The physical activity is moving, exploring, and doing things on their own with one's peer or in the company of adult and using language to read, to express or ask, to listen, and to interact are the key processes through which learning occurs. The context in which learning takes place is thus of direct cognitive significance. Much of our school learning is still individual based, although not individualized. The teacher is seen as transmitting knowledge, which is usually confused with information to children and organizing experiences in order to help children learn, but interaction with teachers, with peers, as well as those who are older and younger can open up many more rich learning possibilities. Learning in the company of others is a process of interacting with each other and also through the learning task at hand. This kind of learning is enriched when school enroll children from different socio-economic backgrounds. The mandate character of NCERT envisages a special place for designing curriculum. NCERT expected to review school curriculum as a regular activity ensuring the highest standards of research. National Policy of Education 1986 NPE 1986 assigns a special role to NCERT in preparing and promoting a national curriculum framework. NCF structure National String Committee setup. NSC comprise 35 members including scholars, principals and teachers, NGO representatives and NCERT faculty. NSC supported by 21 national focus groups to prepare well-researched position papers. NFGS chaired by renowned scholars and practitioners. National focus groups curricular areas are science, mathematics, Indian languages, English, social science, art, dance, theatre and music, physical education and health. Systematic reform, aims of education, systematic reform for circular changes, curriculum, syllabus and textbooks, teacher education for curriculum renewal, examination reforms, work and education, educational technology, heritage crafts, national concerns, that is problem of SC/ST children, gender, problems of children with special needs, peace, education. Let us discuss the National Curriculum Framework. These are divided into 5 areas. First is perspectives, then learning and knowledge, then curricular areas, school stages and assessment, classroom, school and classroom environment, and systematic reform. Let us begin with the first, that is perspective. Perspective, that is, provide the historical background, recalls NPA's statement on curricular framework, revolves around the question of curriculum load on children, information often confused for knowledge, tendency to teach, everything arises from our lack of faith in children, creative instincts, demand for inclusion of new topics, subjects result in disjoint syllabus and encyclopedic textbook and traumatic exams. So basically, in short, perspectives are to upload values enshrined in the Constitution of India, to reduce the of curriculum load, to ensure quality education for all, and to initiate certain systematic changes. Next is learning and knowledge. Learning and knowledge, that correspondence between learner development and learning in intrinsic to curricular practices. Knowledge is different from information. Organizing learning experiences for construction of knowledge and fostering creativity. Connecting knowledge across disciplinary boundaries for insightful construction of knowledge. Learning experiences for developing critical perspectives on social issues. Plurality of textbook and other material incorporating local language knowledge mediated through constitutional values and principles. Next is curriculum areas, school stages and assessment. Implication of 3 languages formula with renewed efforts. The idea that home language or mother tongue is the best medium to build a foundation for education applies a tribal language as well. Multilingual character of Indian society is a resource for promoting language proficiency. Teaching mathematics to focus on developing child's resources to think and reason, to visualize abstraction and to formulate and solve problems. Teaching of science to be recast to enable learners to acquire methods and processes that will nurture thinking process, curiosity and creativity. Social science to be considered from disciplinary perspective while emphasizing integrated approach in the treatment of significant themes. Enabling pedagogic practices are critical for developing thinking process, decision making and critical reflections on social issues. The art and heritage craft and health and physical education to form critical components of school curriculum. Other is school and classroom environment. Critical prerequisites for improved performance, minimum infrastructure and material facilities and support for planning and flexible daily schedule. Focus on nurturing an enabling environment. Revisits tradition nations of discipline. Discuss needs for providing space to parents and community. Discuss other learning sites and resources like texts and books, libraries and laboratories and media and ICT. Address the need of plurality of material and teacher autonomy or professional independence to use such materials. And reconceptualization of textbooks, teachers' handbooks, and other material based on new perspectives and access to interactive technologies. Strengthening the Panchayati Raj institution and encouraging community participation for enhancing quality and accountability. Teacher education programs to be recast to reflect professionalism in the process of training and teaching. Productive work as pedagogic medium in the school curriculum from pre-primary to senior secondary stages. Vocational education and training to be conceived and implemented in the mission mode. Approaches to planning. Our educational practice is still based on limited lesson plans aimed at achieving measurable behaviors. According to this view, the child is akin to creature that can be trained or a computer that can be programmed. Hence, here is too much focus on outcomes and presenting knowledge divided into bits of information to be memorized directly from the text or through activities after motivating children and finally on evaluating to see if children remember what they have learned. Instead, we need to view the child as constructing knowledge all the time. This is true not only of cognitive subjects such as mathematics and science, language and social science, but equally of values, skills and attitudes. The perspective of learner may should sound obvious, but in fact, many teachers, evaluators and textbook writers still lack of conviction that this can become a reality. The term activity is now a part of register of most elementary school teachers, but in many cases this has just been grafted on the Herbarian lesson plan, still derived by outcomes at the end of each lesson. There is now more talk of competencies, but these competencies are still packed onto lessons much in manner of outcomes. Instead, teachers need to develop the ability to plan units of 4 or 5 lessons for each topic. The development of understanding and of competencies is also possible only through repeated opportunities to use the competency in different situations and in a variety of ways. While the development of knowledge, understanding, and skills can be assessed both at the end of a unit and revisited at a later date, the assessment cycle for competencies need to be longer. So, framing questions, if the answer is it was red, what might be the question? What was the color of the flower? Or why did you put the letter into that box? Why did she stop so suddenly at the traffic light? NCF curriculum areas in traditional mathematics, language, science, social science. Other areas art, education, health and physical education, education for peace, habit and learning. Activities could enable teacher. So if we will talk about the organizing experiences, observing something happen, say the process of seed germination in a real situation, of observing different stages of milk collection, processing and packaging different kinds of products in dairy farm, participating in an exercise involving body and mind such as planning a role play around a theme and presenting it. Participating in an exercise involving body and mind, such as planning a role play around a theme and presenting it. Talking about talking about and reflecting on something the child has experience of. Example, dialogue on gender differentiated practices in the family and society, or participating in a mental game of numbers. Making something, say a system of gear or wheels, or trying out an experiment to lift a load using a system of pulleys. After an experience, teacher could organize a discussion, an exercise involving writing, drawing and display. She should identify along with the children questions to be taught about and answered. She could connect the experience with textbook knowledge and other references and deepen the experience. Such experience and post experience activities would be valuable at any level of schooling. Only the nature and complexity of the experience would need to change over the year. Language is key to organizing experiences. Hence, there should be a proper coordination between kind of experience and the level of language development. Activities could enable teachers to give individualized attention to children and to make alterations in a task depending on their requirements and variations in the level of interest. In fact, teachers could also consider involving children and older learners in planning in the classwork. Such variety would bring tremendous richness to the classroom processes. It would also allow teachers to respond to the special needs of some children without making it seem as if it is an obvious exception. There is still not enough engagement on the part of the teacher with the learning of each child. Children are treated en masses, and only those who are regarded as us as stars or problematic are noticed. All children would benefit from such attention. A lesson plan or unit plan for an inclusion class should indicate how the teacher alters the ongoing activity to meet the different needs of children. Failure to learning is currently being mechanically addressed through remediation, which usually means simply repeating lessons. Many teachers are also looking for cures to set right the problems that some children may experience. They still find it difficult to individualize learning for children by building upon the strengths and that children may have. Teachers need to understand how to plan lessons so that children are challenged to think and to try out what they are learning and not simply repeat what is told to them. A new problem is that in the name of activities and play way method, a lot of learning is being diluted by giving children things to do that are far below their capability. One concern is that focus on activities would become too time consuming and make greater demands on teachers' time. Certainly, doing activities require the time to be spent in planning and preparing for activities initially. Teachers need to make an effort to establish the classroom culture for activities and to establish the rules that will govern the space and use of materials. Planning with the support of appropriate material, resources for individualized small group and whole group work is the key of effective management of instruction in a multi-grade or multi-ability or vertically grouped classroom. Instead of finding ways of juggling lesson plan based on monograde textbook, teacher would need to devise in advance thematic topic plans in order to engage learners with exercises created for their level. To the practices of teachers in classrooms, the materials they use and the evaluation techniques employed must be internally consistent with each other. Discipline and participatory management. The pupils on the school as much as the teacher and headmasters, especially in government schools. There is a relationship in interdependency between the teacher and the pupils, especially in this era where learning transaction is based on access to information and knowledge creation is based on foundation of resources of which the teacher is the pivot. One cannot function without the other. Educational transaction has to shift from the benefactor teacher and the beneficiary, that is pupil, to a motivator and a facilitator and learner, all of whom have rights and responsibilities in ensuring that educational transaction takes place. At present, school rules, norms, and conventions define permitted good and proper behavior for individual and groups of students. Maintaining discipline in social is usually the prerogative of teachers and adults in positions of authority, often the sports master and administrators. Frequently, they also product children as monitors and perfects and delegate the responsibility of maintaining order and ensuring control. Punishment and reward play an important role in this. Those who implement rarely questions and rules or the implication that ensuring compliance may have on children's overall development, self esteem, and also their interest in learning. Forms of disciplining such as corporal punishment and verbal and non-verbal abuse of children continue to feature in many schools and are used to humiliate children in front of their peers. Yet many teachers and even parents still believe that such punishment is important, unaware of the immediate and long-term detrimental effects of these practices. It is important to teacher to reflect on the rationale that underlies the rules and convention that govern schools and whether they are consistent with our aims of education. For instance, rules such as length of socks and whiteness of sports shoes are of no educationally defensible importance. Rules regarding maintaining silence in classroom, answering one at a time, and answering only if you know the right answer can undermine the values of equality and equal opportunity. Such rules may also discourage processes that are integral to children learning, the development of sense of community among peers through they may take the class easy to manage for the teacher and facilitate covering the syllabus. At last, aims of education. The aims of education serve as broad guidelines to align educational processes to chosen ideals and accepted principles. The aims of education simultaneously reflect the current needs and aspirations of a society as well as its lasting values and the immediate concerns of a community as well as broad human ideals. At any given time and place, they can be called the contemporary and contextual articulations of broad and lasting human aspirations and values. Educational aims turn the different activities undertaken in schools and other educational institutions into a creative pattern and give them the distinctive character of being educational. An educational aim helps the teacher connect her present classroom activity to the cherished future outcome without making it instrumental and therefore give it direction without divorcing it from current concerns. Thus, an aim is a foreseen end, it is not an ideal view or merge speculator, rather, it influences the steps taken to reach the end. An aim must provide foresight. It can do this in three ways. First, it involves careful observation of given conditions to see what means are available for reaching the end and to discover the hindrance in the way. This may require a careful study of children and an understanding of what they are capable of learning at different ages. Second is foresight struggle suggests that the proper order of sequence that would be effective. Third, it makes the choice of alternative possible. Therefore, acting with an aim allows us to act intelligently. The school, the classroom, and related learning sites are space where the core of educational activity takes place. These must become space where learners have experiences that help them achieve and the desired curricular objectives. An understanding of learners' educational aims, the nature of knowledge, and the nature of school as a social space can help us arrive at principles to guide classroom practices. The guiding principles discussed earlier provide the landscape of social values within which we locate our educational aims. The first is commitment to democracy and the values of equality, justice of freedom, concern of for others' well-being, secularism, and understanding. Respect of human dignity and rights. Education should aim to build a commitment of these values which are based on reason and understanding. The curriculum therefore should provide adequate experience and space for dialogue and discourse in the school to build such a commitment in children. Independence of thought and action points to a capacity of carefully considered value based decision making both independently and collectively. Our sensitivity to others' well being and feelings, together with knowledge and understanding of the world, should form the basis of a rational commitment to values. At last, learning to learn and the willingness to unlearn. The relearn are important as means of responding to new situations in a flexible and creative manner. The curriculum needs to emphasize the process of constructing knowledge. Let us learn few terms about the NCF curriculum areas. First is NCF language. Three language formula reaffirmed importance of home language, multilingualism as a resource, English as a subject and English as medium. NCF science. What biology can Janabai, an incapable tribal secondary school student, learn? What biology she knows? We can use different plants as source of food, medicine, fuel, wood, dyes and building materials, recognizes differences between trees and notices seasonal variation based on shape, size, distribution of leaves and flowers, smell, textures. Can identify 100 different plants more than her biology teacher who believes Janabai is a poor student. NCF science. Science should nurture curiosity and creativity, particularly in relationship to the environment. Science teaching should be placed in the context of children's environment to help them enter the world of work. Awareness of environmental concerns. NCF social science equip children to think critically on social issues. Interdisciplinary approach to key national concerns such as gender, human rights, marginalized minorities, etc. Civics to be recast as political science. Significance of history, conceptions of past and civic identity. NCF mathematics. Main goal of mathematics is mathematization rather than knowledge of mathematics. NCF NCF systemic reform, examination reform. SIFT should content based teaching, problem solving and understanding. School should involve continuous evaluation for diagnosis and remedial learning. Maths and English board exams at different levels. No board or state level exams at class 5, 8 or 11. NCF examination reforms shift from content-based teaching to problem-solving understanding and understanding in mathematics. If you know that 235 plus 367 is equal to 602, how much is 234 plus 369? How did you find the answer? Change any one digit in 5384. Did the number increase or decrease? By how much? That was all about the National Curriculum Framework 2005. At last, thanks for watching.